how they carry it out. At the first, we really thought that radiation health was an active medical concern that was used probably like on the daily to maintain the ongoing health of active duty personnel as it stood. And over the course, the AWICS found that actually the record is primarily concerned with, first of all, career lifetime exposure as opposed to like daily or incidental exposure, and that really it's used to ensure that no member of the personnel receives more than the 5 REMs over their career service lifetime that we saw there. And that also changed how we understood what RHOs actually do. They're not, doctors that directly treat people on a daily basis, as we first assumed when we heard radiation health officer. And that's kind of how our idea shifted from, okay, it turns out the record isn't some kind of medical library used for direct treatment of personnel, but it is and that is used in relation to veterans who file claims for radiological health concerns after their separation from the service. So there was a pivot point where we realized, okay, this data is being used in a way different from how we assumed it was being used. That sort of was that pivot point.
And then just one more question. Throughout the course, right, the blockchain was always in periphery. And what insight did you have? What point did you say, okay, blockchain is really the solution?
Yeah, I think it's pretty interesting because based on that customer discovery, when we try to talk with our interviewees, it's just because we try to separate into like one's medical centers and others would be the shipyards. But it's pretty interesting when we listen that they don't really barely talk to each other. There's sometimes how the ways of communication is like sending email and then just mail that's report to me if I need any information right in your systems. So we can see this is a public coordination. And because of that part coordination, that's really remind us like cloud storage or any like storage method is not the way. Maybe we need to think something digital technology really to coordinate with multiple systems, because like this is not only like limits to medical centers and all those shipyards, but we also know there's an NDC. So this is more than like more than two parties that involved in the radiation programs based on that data transferring. And we still think like, yeah, blockchain can really do that because based on that decentralized like, features and the records, the quality is pretty important for them. So this is why we realized, yeah, blockchain maybe can really apply in it.
Essentially, we learned that each command maintains their own database, and that these databases cannot and should not be merged. They should not become one unified framework. So the question became, how do we allow these different nodes to talk to each other without then just simply conglomerating them into one centralized database? And what blockchain allows is it allows for lines of communication to exist between these various groups without making them one amalgam. And that's kind of what separates it from the cloud-based solution and why we think it's a much more, shoe fits the foot type of solution for NDC.
Thank you, guys.